So since we're working on 7.1 part 1, you guys should have made this based off of the sketch that was given to you using a 0.25 grid for each cube. Now what we need to do is make our dimension drawing. So if you remember, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File, New, and we are going to choose our curly title block, which you should have installed on your computer so that you have that available. If you need to do that, go back to the YouTube channel, find the video on how to install a curly title block, and please watch that and do that before you move forward. I expect all of your drawings to be on the curly title block. So go ahead and choose the curly title block. Fill out this basic information. This is 7.1.1. Your designer name is, well, your name. I don't know what my initial scale is going to be, so I'm going to leave that blank, and this is page or sheet number 1. So go ahead and click OK, and it's going to open up this drawing page for you with some of the information already filled out. Now let's go ahead and place our part. If you remember, we have our part open, so we're just going to hit base. It's going to automatically grab it for us, and we're just going to place our 4 views in alignment. Right click and hit OK. Now let's go ahead and dimension this. So we're going to choose the Annotate tab, and remember, you need your overall width, height, and depth, and then you need the location of every feature so that you can recreate this object when you're trying to make it. So let's start by doing our overall width, and remember, drag out until you start seeing dotted lines. I know I'm going to put at least one more dimension in, so I'm going to take this one out to right here. Okay, and then also along this width, I need to know where this line is. Now I'm using data dimensioning, which means I'm always going to be starting from the same point. So I started from this far left line. I'm going to start my next dimension from the far left line and put it in. Now you'll notice right now that Inventor did something that we say, oh no, never do, never put dimensions on the outside of an object. This dimension is okay to be on the outside of the object because the text is too big for it to fit in between our arrowheads. This is an acceptable placement. We've put the arrowheads where they belong. It's just that the text is too small. I'm okay with that. Inventor is okay with that. That is a generally accepted place to put a measurement. What you would not do is put a measurement, say, for the height out here. Like, you would not put this height measurement on the outside. That's misplaced. That needs to go on the inside, which in fact we need to do, so we'll go ahead and snap that one into place. We need one more dimension on the side for the height, and we're going to place that one, get my dotted lines here, right there. Okay, now this is really far away from there, so once you've unchecked dimension and you click or hover over a button, you'll see that the arrowhead's changed to that 4-way arrowhead. That means you can move a dimension. So like, I didn't like where that one was. It was too far out, so I just drug it in a little bit. Let's go ahead and dimension our overall depth. Oops, I'm sorry, our overall depth, which is this one. Get it there, okay. And then I also need to specify the depth of this line here and this line here. So let's do that. Or we can do this line here to this line here. Since I can also do the depths for these this bit on the top on this drawing, or this part of this view, I'm going to go ahead and save that for there. So let's put this one here. And again, I'm using data dimensioning. I'm starting from the same place. Now I know where this line is. Now I need to know how big this gap is. So I'm going to, again, data dimensioning. I'm going to just start from the same point, which was this lower line, and place that one in there. Okay, and this 7.5 is a little close, a little cluttered. So there we go. Okay, now let's put in some dimensions along the width here. Again, data dimensioning, so I'm going to start from this edge, and I'm going to go to there, and you'll look again, that 0.25 is too small to fit between the arrowheads, so it's being put outside, well, on the inside, but it's not between the arrowheads. Now I know where this line is, I need to know where this line is, so let's go ahead and from the same start point, put in that dimension. And there's a few other things that I need to know. I need to know how deep this crevice is. We're using data dimensioning from the base. Oops. So we're going to throw that one in right here. So I know how wide this is, how wide this is. I can figure out how deep this is because I know the overall height. I know how big the L is going to be. And the only thing I haven't specified is how deep this cutout is here. So again, data dimensioning from the left side, we just need to specify that height or that length right there. And there we go. Now we can recreate this object using all of these dimensions. Remember, what do I always say? Save and save. Now what we're going to do here when we save is we're not going to save this as 7.1.1. We are simply going to save this as 7.1 underscore your last name. And I'll explain why in just a second. But that's how I want you to save it. One other thing you want to do, guys, is up here on your browser bar, you just have this great name of sheet 1. It's not very specific. So if you double click on the word, you'll see how it becomes highlighted in blue, and you can rename it. So let's rename this as 7.1. So we know that's the drawing for that part. Rename it, type it in, hit enter. When you click off, now it's labeled 7.1:1, which is what we want. Actually, we want it to be 7.1.1. Let's try this again. 7.1.1. So it's Unit 7, Activity 1, Part 1. So we're happy with that. Now, we can add another sheet to our file. Rather than having 7 or 8 different files for each individual part, we're just going to have one big file with many part files in it. And this is how, in the real world, you'd want to send this information. I don't want you to send me 17 or 20 or 3,000 individual files for all these individual drawings. I want one document that has them all contained together so I don't have to go look for them. And when I go to print them out, they're all together. I don't miss anything. So to add a new sheet, you're going to go to your browser bar, click on the name of your file. So in this case, it's 7.1 underscore Cogswell because we just saved it. Yours will be 7.1 underscore whatever your last name is. And it's right next to the little icon that looks like a drawing file. Right click on it and choose New Sheet. Again, our little title block is going to come up. Put in your information. The next thing is going to be 7.1.2. Your name again. I don't know what my scale is going to be, but this is going to be sheet number 2. And hit OK. And if you look, you have a new sheet. On your browser bar, you have 7.1.1 and you have 7.1.12. The 2 is the new one that has been added. And it's sometimes a little tricky. So here we have our 7.1.1 with our drawing file, and then we have the new sheet. Now, one thing we did not do earlier, guys, is we didn't specify what our scale was. So we can go ahead and change that. If you expand out the children underneath of the drawing file, and then you expand out the children under the curly title block, you're going to have this text field. If you double click on that, this little pop-up window is going to appear, which allows you to input all the information in the spots in your title block. We ended up using the scale of 1:1. Make sure that you fill out all of this information. And if you've made a mistake, this is where you can go and correct it. Inventor automatically populates the date and the file name and path, so you don't need to put those in. It does it for you. You just need to put the other ones in that you can actually change. So go ahead and click OK, and you see my scale has been input. And then I can shrink that stuff back down. Now let's go ahead and go over to 7.2, and when you double click on it, it's kind of weird. It's the one that is not highlighted. That's the active file. And then we can add in our next dimension drawing, do everything that we need to do to dimension it, save it, and then add in the next file.